Okay, moving on. New graph, new function rule. Again, I need to first find the coordinates of my vertex. My vertex is 0, -3. Let's find the slope of the right branch. When x goes up by 1, y goes up, f of x goes up by 2. When x goes up by 1, y or f of x goes up by 2. My right branch slope, meaning my a value, is 2. And so I can write my function rule. I could write my function rule as f of x equals 2, absolute value of x minus 0, plus -3. That's not wrong. I would say it is much more common to write it this way. F of x equals 2, just absolute value of x. Absolute value of x has that invisible minus 0. And then I would just write minus 3, but plus -3 is fine too. Another function notation question. Find x when f of x equals 11. F of x equals 11. Once again, I'm being given the output, my value of f of x, and being asked to solve for x. Good thing I am awesome at solving absolute value equations. 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 11. I could have written 11 equals 2 absolute value of x minus 3, but this looks more common to me. All right, inverse operations to isolate that absolute value of x expression. First, I will add 3 to both sides of my equation. 2 absolute value of x equals 14. Next, I need to divide by 2. That gives me absolute value of x equals 7. I have now isolated the absolute value of x expression, and now I know my solutions. One solution is x equals 7, with an input of 7, or the absolute value of 7 is 7. The other possible x value is -7. The absolute value of -7 is also 7. My answer then is that with an input of 7 into the function f, my output is 11. It's also the case that an input of -7 gives me an output of 11. I'm not asked for the follow-up, what points on the graph did you just find? But I can answer that question. I was given x equals 7, y equals 11, f of x equals 11. Also, when x is -7, the output y, f of x, is also 11. Let's think about what that means on our graph. If I had a bigger graph, when x is -7, my y coordinate, my f of x coordinate, would be positive 11. That was -7. When x is -7, y is 11. Also, when x is positive 7, my y coordinate is 11. So those points would exist. Last example, we are writing a absolute value function rule or equation from a table. I have the same process as for a graph. I need to find the vertex and the right branch slope. When I'm looking for the vertex, I'm looking for the point where the slope either goes from negative to positive or positive to negative. Negative, down 3, negative, down 3, negative, down 3, oh, positive, up 3. So that turning point occurs right here. You can also look for the value of f of x or y that only occurs once with symmetry on either side. My vertex then is 8, 9. My right branch slope is the slope in this second part of the table. My right branch slope, x is going up by 1, y, or f of x, is going up by 3. That means my a value is 3. Here's my function rule. F of x equals a, where a is 3, x minus h, x minus the x coordinate of my vertex, x minus 8, plus k, plus the y coordinate of my vertex. That's a pretty great function rule. Now, luckily, I could do it, but it would be a little bit of effort to solve an equation involving this function rule. I'm not going to be solving an equation here because I'm not given the value of the output. I'm given, in this case, the value of x, the value of the input. I'm asked to find f of -4. That means x is -4, and I'm going to plug in -4 into my function rule. All right, f of negative 4 equals 3. Absolute value of negative 4 minus 8 plus 9. In my first two examples, I was given an opportunity to practice solving an absolute value equation. Now I'm being given the opportunity to evaluate an absolute value function, and in this case, the expression on the right-hand side of my function. Okay, 3 times the absolute value of negative 4 minus 8, the absolute value of negative 12, plus 9. Next, I find the absolute value of negative 12. That is positive 12. And I add 9. Finally, 3 times 12 is 36. And 36 plus 9 is 45. I have found that with an input of negative 4, my output is 45. There's only one answer here because for a given input, there can only be one output. This is a function. If I were to work backwards in my table a lot of rows, I would get to this row. X equals negative 4, f of x or y equals 45.